Hello, everyone. Today we are talking with one of my friends, Kavita Radhakrishnan. Dr. Kavita Radhakrishnan is the Associate Professor of UT Austin, University of Texas, Austin School of Nursing. So Kavita, thank you so much for joining me today. How are things these days?
Thank you for having me, Reshmi. Things are interesting. How about you?
Well, yeah, it's pretty interesting indeed from this side, just trying to be creative and coping with the new time now. So thanks so much for having some time with us here. The reason why I just wanted to have a little bit chat with you is to make ourselves aware about the situation, especially in the Central Texas, in terms of how we are dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic situation.
Sure. It's a interesting time in the sense we are fortunate that we haven't seen the kind of surge we're seeing in places like New York or even in Houston. So Austin has been fortunate. The hospitals, the big hospitals are preparing for us in case we do see a surge. So they has stopped all elective surgeries, all other, except for some hospitals dedicated for COVID care. Some hospitals are dedicated for just emergency care that's non-COVID related, but everything else has been canceled or the work hours have been reduced. Rehab centers have been closed. Elective surgeries have been canceled. So at one hand, we have nurses who can be pretty overworked because their units are seeing large number of patients. But on the other hand, we also see nurses who don't have as many hours to work, or may have even lost their jobs. It's just we're seeing both sides of the ball. Like they can be pretty stressed, pretty anxious, not just about the workload, but also if about the future of their job, and they don't know if their job's going to be around. The other thing that's kind of concerning is a lot of patients are putting off their healthcare, because they're scared to come to the hospital because they may get infected, and they want to avoid that. So a lot of them are putting off their healthcare, their regular typical appointments, and we don't know what the fallout of that would be later. A lot of elective surgeries have been put off, but at some point they may need to be rescheduled again. So we could possibly see a surge that way, that's not COVID related after this crisis. And the other thing that we are noticing in our School of Nursing is a lot of nursing students are losing their placements, or in the sense they're losing the sites where they would typically get to practice their nursing skills, because as understandably, the hospitals want to protect the students and they also want to protect the patients. So, these are times where we're having to become very creative. We're using technology such as simulation to provide the nursing students with skills, nursing skills, and any bedside assessment skills. So we're just having to be creative because a lot of the typical sites, such as hospitals and nursing homes, are just not ready to have these students anymore.
Well, thanks so much for providing us the insight about what's going on. In terms of the new placements of the School of Nursing students, and also the patients of non-COVID related diseases, healthcare situations that we have. Would you give us some insight about how, inside your thought about the low-income population here in Central Texas, especially the refugees, undocumented immigrants, elderly population, and also the Asian American population in particular?
Well, I mean, it's bound to be difficult for all. A lot of the populations that you mentioned, the common thing is they have they have problems with speaking English, low English proficiency. So even in the best of times, they struggle to find access to the right resources, especially for healthcare. And now with there is shelter in place orders, so you can't travel as much. Public transport is not as frequent. All of that just makes access to healthcare and other things much more difficult. Plus, the other issue is poverty too, because um, many of the small businesses have closed down. Many of the shops where these the vulnerable populations tend to work are just not around, and so we don't know about the income, and that means they would have to. There's the food insecurity issues, and then of course all of that is going to make a big impact on their stress and consequently their healthcare.
Yes, indeed. Since I sit in the board of Austin Asian Community Health Initiative, so a lot of insights that you have just provided that goes pretty well with the insight that we are seeing through Achi, the field work, field experience they have. Kavita, you and I both come from the same region. We come from South Asia, and our family and a lot of our acquaintances and friends live in that region. What is your thought these days and feeling these days for?
Sure. The one thing that's very much concerning me is the huge number of migrant workers. Like even within a country, you're talking about undocumented or migrants in US, but in countries like India and even Bangladesh, there are a lot of migrant workers who come from other states within the country, and the plight of these migrant workers is just really sad, because they are so many thousands of miles away from their home, but with the lockdown restraints, they cannot get to their homes, they cannot go to their work, which means they have again problems with access to food. They're hungry. We've all heard cases of so many migrant workers who have walked thousands of miles, and some of them have just died due to fatigue. And right now they are just surviving due to some government initiatives, but also some voluntary charity work where people are providing them with food. But it's not all consistent. It's just causing a lot of issues around for the migrant workers.
Yeah. One thing that I always know that you have been a big advocate so far, and a good friend in terms of the things that I do. And this initiative, you have been very supportive from the beginning that I have taken. So I just want to know what made you to give us some time today and also to support this initiative.
Well, it's hard in the right place. Proceeds are going to help Achi, like you mentioned. Achi, as a board commissioner in the Austin, City of Austin Quality of Life, Asian American Quality of Life. Achi is an organization that provides community navigation to vulnerable populations, especially Asian American in origin. And then you also talked about another organization that provides kind of food issues and other kind of support resources to migrant workers in other in countries like Bangladesh. And then it just seemed a very creative way to involve people, such as the use of music to bring everyone together. We all love music. We all share a love for music. So it's just it's just everything coming in together. And that's why I thought this would be a good initiative to be part of.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much. I know this is during this time, so many of us, we are using our social capital and trying our best to do what we can do from our own position. So the other day you were sharing some initiatives, about your neighborhood people.
Yeah. There's just lots of initiatives. So the good thing is, I'm sure there are a lot of sad things, but it's just amazing. There's so much positivity, the way people are coming together. Some of initiatives would be like, even people in countries like India, where they cook meals for thousands of people, and they organize that, and then provide support to the migrant workers. And even in places like over here, like even in my neighborhood, where there are a group of working women and men who have sewing machines, and they're using their spare time to stitch masks and gowns, because one thing that I did not mention about the stress for healthcare providers is we are seeing such a severe shortage of personal protective equipment, that is PPE, and masks and gowns. It is, basically, this is what they say, right? We want our healthcare providers, such as nurses and doctors, to go fight a war against this coronavirus, but we are not giving them any armor, like no equipment. So there's such a shortage of those PPE. And so when the system is not supporting local people, just lay people are stepping up to try to fill that gap, and they are they are donating money. They are people who can stitch or stitching, and then thousands of masks are being stitched and being shared and distributed among like Austin area hospitals and nursing homes. So it's really very heartening to see that. Besides, the all kind of donation events that's happening, supporting religious institutions, or just people who have lost jobs. So it's heartening. It's positive. It's positive to see how the community is coming together, and a lot of initiatives are being supported. And so those are some of the good things that's coming out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you that we all are building a new world, it seems like, through our own sense of empathy from what is being unfolding in front of us, this whole misery and the overall the pandemic situation. I do appreciate your time a lot. Yes.
Thank you so much again for having me.
Yes, yes. I hope our audiences, our friends who are joining this event, this music event that will be on May 2nd, we all will join and will donate for the causes that Kavita has just mentioned. And thank you again, Kavita.
Yeah, looking forward to the musical event.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.